All right, so a little bit after 6, we'll go ahead and get started. So I want to thank everyone for being here tonight for our anti-bullying conversation and kind of go through that a little bit. I do want to thank the Amherst County Sheriff's Office with Jordan Cendrick and Amherst Town Police with Brandon Payne for being here and our community partners on this tonight and the whole team that worked on this throughout the past couple months. We know we had some incidents that occurred here at Amherst County High School but right before spring break, and this was being planned prior to that. We started planning this back in February to get it ready for tonight's presentation. So we're really not going to hit a lot on the events that happened here at the high school, but we will talk more about the major concepts of bullying and so forth. So that's kind of our focus tonight. And for those that, we're recording this as well. So if you're not able to see this live, again, Mr. Cargill back there is recording it for us. So it'll be posted probably sometime tomorrow, Mr. Cargill, or next week. Soon. Okay, we'll go with soon. All right, thank you. All right. So why is bullying important? So we pulled some data from our student surveys, and these student surveys are done every 2 years at the middle school. They alternate between middle school and high school. So our data from Manelson Middle School in 2019-20, 42% of students reported being bullied at some point that year. 25% of students admitted to bullying other students, and 54% of students who reported experiencing bullying did not tell an adult. So we really need students that are, when we think about this, we really want our students that are experiencing these types of events, that people are saying things to them, to report that to the adults. Amherst Middle School data from that same year, 33% of students reported being bullied, 16% of students admitted to bullying others, and again, 52% of students who reported experiencing bullying did not tell an adult. That's our big concern right now. From the high school in 18-19, which is last year we have data, 34% of students reported being bullied, 18% of students admitted to bullying other students, and 70% of students at the high school did not tell an adult. Okay? So that's kind of, when we pulled our data, we really wanted to look at that to kind of get the idea of, okay, what are we seeing, and why is this, what's going on, and why we need to do this. So those are some pretty interesting numbers there, and we really want to make sure that's why we're addressing this tonight. And really our schools have been addressing this in the buildings here recently, trying to make sure we're kind of trying to get ahead of this a little bit. So school safety. So again, why is it important? School safety. As you know, if you don't feel safe in school, it's really hard to learn, right? If I'm worried about defending myself or can I get through the day, okay, if somebody's saying something to me, I'm really not focused on learning. If people are saying things to me, I'm off track, how can I learn if I don't feel safe in school? So really focus on school safety. From a mental health standpoint, we want to think about if you're the victim of bullying, or is it causing concerns with you from a mental health standpoint? Do you need to get supports there? And so that's another issue we have. Attendance and achievement. Again, if you don't feel safe, it's very hard to achieve, to be at your top performance. And your attendance suffers. A lot of students who report being bullied are attendance issues because they don't really want to come to school because they don't want to face the person who's having those conversations, making those comments to them. Life skills for the future. Part of this too, though, is knowing that you're still going to, no matter what is happening, you still have to learn how to cope with things. So we want to give people coping skills. Some people do say things to them, they know how to cope with them. But also, as they move through life, you can't continue some of these behaviors that people are demonstrating at the middle school and into the high school level and expect to be successful in your career if you're still doing that type of behavior. And, a lot of people get fired from their jobs because they post things on social media that they shouldn't be posting. Some people comments about, even adults make negative comments about people in their social media. Well, and these are adults. So we need to really think about, really start teaching our students the proper way to deal with things on social media. So when they do get into adulthood, they don't get to a point where they're making bad mistakes and it ends up legally putting them in legal consequences or getting fired from their positions. And then community safety and well-being, again, that's a lot of safety here, right? So our community issues. A lot of what we're finding when we look at our data, when a parent reports things to us, what we're finding is when we start looking into it, is a lot of these bullying incidents are happening between 4 o'clock in the afternoon and midnight. Because people are home on their phones or on their computers and they're making comments about people. And then the person at school comes to school the next day all mad because somebody's posting stuff about them, and they confront them in the school, and then we have an issue, a disciplinary issue in the school because somebody's posting things the night before, making comments about somebody, and then they come in to bring it to school the next morning. Okay, so really, again, part of this is for our parents to understand that a lot of things do happen at school. We're not denying that, and we'll own that, but a lot of things happen between 4 o'clock and bedtime with students because they have their phone and they can sit there and do all kinds of things on their phones. We've had students create false accounts saying they're somebody else and posting things about that, saying they're that student, putting negative things out there on social media about that individual, saying they're them. So those things do happen. So we just need to be aware of that, okay? The definition of bullying, this is the Code of Virginia. So, and I'm going to read this kind of verbatim so I don't mess it up too much. But every school division policy should include a definition of bullying, which at a minimum is consistent to that adopted by the Code of Virginia 2013. So bullying means any aggressive and unwanted behavior that is intended to harm, intimidate, or humiliate the victim. It involves a real or perceived power imbalance between the aggressor or aggressors and the victim, and is repeated over time or causes severe emotional trauma. Bullying includes cyberbullying. Bullying does not include ordinary teasing, horseplay, argument, or peer conflict. The main thing here that we have to deal with when we're talking about this from a school standpoint is it repeated? Okay, does it happen just one time when somebody says something mean to somebody? That's not necessarily bullying, okay? But is it repeated behavior, and is that power imbalance there? That's what we need to look for. Is the behavior repeated, and is there a power imbalance? Now, sometimes an incident can occur one time, but that meets the definition because we've had incidents where somebody might take a video of somebody one time and post it out there, and it's caused such a problem for that individual from the emotional trauma or the severe emotional trauma aspect of it that we can count that. But typically, we're talking about repeated behaviors, okay? Over and over and over and over, I'm making comments to you or about you and so forth. That's what we're looking at for bullying. Again, teasing. Kids do tease each other, okay? Kids do horseplay. Kids do have an argument. Students will have conflicts. I will say something, they'll say something back. Is that bullying? No, because there's no power imbalance there, okay? But the power imbalance there is kind of what causes it, okay? Types of bullying. We have physical, verbal, social, and cyber. Physical includes hitting, kicking, tripping, pinching, pushing, damaging their property. It causes both short-term and long-term damage. Verbal includes name-calling, insults, some teasing, some intimidation, or verbal abuse. While verbal bullying can start off harmless, it can escalate to levels which start affecting the individual target. Social bullying, sometimes referred to as covert bullying, is often hard to recognize and can be carried out behind the bullied person's back. It is designed to harm someone's social reputation or cause humiliation. Social bullying can include lying, spreading rumors, negative gestures, menacing or contemptuous looks, playing nasty jokes to embarrass and humiliate, mimicking, encouraging others to exclude someone, or damaging someone's social reputation or social acceptance. And we see a lot of that. Cyber, intentional and repeated harm inflicted through the use of computers, phones, and other electronic devices. Cyberbullying can include abusive or hurtful text, emails or posts, images or videos, deliberately excluding others online, nasty gossip or rumors, imitating others online, or pretending to be someone else online. Okay? And we're going to get more into that a little bit later with our law enforcement folks. All right, we're going to get into some scenarios. I'll turn it over to Ms. Gray, and she's going to do a couple scenarios with us. Well, you can stand wherever you want.
I'm going to stand right over here.
Okay.
All right, so as Dr. Wells said, there's a difference between bullying and someone being mean, and then even just like peer conflict. So we're going to look at a couple scenarios, and this is where you guys get to interact with me, and you can help me decide, is this something that's mean, is it bullying, or is it just rude behavior that still needs to be addressed? Because being mean is still not acceptable, being rude is not acceptable, and surely bullying is not, but there are some differences. So Molly and Amara have been best friends. They got into an argument, and now Amara is saying that Julie is that Julie is her best friend, so now Molly feels hurt. So is that an example of something that would be mean, rude, or bullying? What do you guys think? Mean, right. It's not okay. Amara's feelings or Molly's feelings are really hurt, but it's not necessarily bullying. Tommy and Vero are friends. They get into a fight over a video game. Is that mean, rude, or bullying? That's just mean. All right. 3 7th grade girls tell a teacher that 2 other 8th grade girls started rumors about them. This has been going on for a while, and the 2 accused girls that are in 8th grade say that the others started the rumors first. This one's a little bit more tricky. Is it mean, is it bullying, or is it just rude? Okay, so it's possible that it could be the start of bullying, and this is something that would need a little bit more monitoring. There'd be some interventions that would need to take place with those students, and could be considered the start of bullying. All right, a group of 6th grade girls call Sarah names, start rumors about her, and encourage others not to talk to her. Is that mean, rude, or bullying? That's bullying, yes. Lisa and Kyle were dating and recently broke up. Kyle's new girlfriend has been posting negative and hurtful comments about Lisa on social media. Yeah, so it's really mean, and it's the start of bullying, and that's where we would want to start monitoring it and intervening and providing some interventions and doing some further investigation. So John is loud and often tries to start conflicts with other people. He has no friends and is often by himself. A group of students call him names and tease him. They have started rumors that a quiet girl in their class likes him. What do you guys think? Bullying? Yeah, so it's probably, again, the start of bullying, and that's where we would, they're being mean to him, and we'd start providing some more interventions and monitoring that and further investigating and seeing if there's more behind the story. Leslie and Leah have decided to pull pictures of Lance from his social media site. They have photoshopped the pictures and made memes to share with other students. The pictures continue to be sent around to other students via Snapchat, and comments are being made in a group chat that Lance is fat and ugly. What do you guys think? Yeah. All right. 2 students are walking down the hall during class exchange. Another student is running down the hall and pushes the student into the locker as they're running by. Is that mean, rude, or bullying? It's rude behavior, it's not acceptable, it's mean, but I would still look and see if there was something else that had happened between those students before. Is there an ongoing issue? Was he rude, or was he unintentionally pushing them, or was it just he's being mean and running by and pushing him one time? So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at different scenarios where someone's being mean or rude or involving with bullying. And I am going to pass it back to Dr. Wells. You guys did great. I'm going to call you when we need some help investigating.
So what do we try to do? And so a lot of these incidents we talked about could be bullying, but could be just negative behavior. So we still deal with it. It might not be a bullying offense, but it's still going to be an offense through our discipline that these students are going to get dealt with. Okay, so we need to make sure that y'all understand that just because it's not maybe classified as bullying does not mean we're not taking it seriously and we're not dealing with it. But there are certain things criteria we have to meet in order for it to be considered truly bullying. Okay, so what do we try to do to prevent bullying? So school counseling lessons. So it's elementary, middle schools, our school counselors push into classrooms, and they do lessons on bullying. We have IT, RT, computer safety lessons. So we have our computer techs, what's the right term for that? Not computer techs, Dr. Norman. Instructional technology resource teachers. So they push into schools and into classrooms and do lessons on computer safety, on bullying through computer safety lessons. We set rules and expectations in the code of conduct. Beginning of the year, we all reviewed the code of conduct. We knew we had some issues a couple weeks ago, back in March, so we actually had the middle schools actually revisit this and actually talk to their students and have teachers talk to their students about what is acceptable behavior, what is appropriate behavior. Make sure they understood that. So we review the rules, expectations of code of conduct. I'll tell you, with the COVID issues we've had a lot less ability to do face-to-face assemblies and interactions and stuff like that because we couldn't get the students close to each other. Now we're pushing through to the end of that, we're able to do more assemblies and more contact and more push into classrooms more. So it is helping us a little bit there. School-wide acknowledgement system, so students that are doing really good things are getting acknowledged. Okay? Guest speakers, again with assemblies, we're able to do a little bit more of that now. Tonight we're able to do this. Back in January we couldn't have done this because we had a positivity rate through the roof, so we couldn't get people together. We do kindness weeks, and we do collaboration with families and stakeholders. So we really want to talk to our families. If families are reporting incidents of things going on at home, we need to know that. All right, so we need our parents, we need our students to notify their parents, and then our parents to work with us so we can help resolve some of these issues. So how to report it? Right now we have a form on the Amherst County Public Schools website that you can go to and do a bullying complaint. You can report it that way. You can fill it out. You can talk to your teacher. You can talk to your school administrator. We want it to stay at the school level first. I mean, I'll be glad to talk to anybody who calls, but the first thing I'm going to do if you call me is call your principal and say this is what's going on. So we're better off kind of starting at the school level first and making sure they're able to try to work on it and work to resolve some of these situations. And then if we can't, then we'll continue to look into it. But tell an adult. Really, parents, encourage your students to find a trusted adult. If it's not somebody they trust at school, they need to come home to you and talk to you. And then you can notify us of what's going on. Again, adults should report suspicion of bullying to the school principal. And you can also do this form right here and send it in. So how do we intervene? So we investigate these. If it gets reported, we investigate it. Okay, so we want to make sure that we take our time to investigate it. We can collaborate with outside agencies. Now, back to the first investigations, we can do discipline. If severe enough, they're going to get discipline, sometimes severe discipline. We've had to suspend students for multiple days for some incidents. We don't want to suspend everybody. We'd rather work with them on milder cases first, but if it gets too worse severe, people do get suspended for this. We collaborate with outside agencies, medical providers, mental health, law enforcement. School counselors support with mediation. They try to work it out amongst their students. Individual and group counseling. We have parent meetings. We try to bring parents into to the offices and meet with us, meet with their teachers. We can do schedule changes. So if there's a conflict between two students that we know they're not getting along, we will put them in a different class so they're not together all the time. We notify students and families who are affected or involved. We're required by law to, if somebody's making threatening comments to somebody, we're required to notify the family of the victim of who's doing it. We involve the SROs when appropriate, so they can come in and actually talk to the people and talk to the families about the legal consequences of this as well. Disciplinary consequences. Again, we investigate all types of bullying, even when it occurs outside of school. Now, there's some things that occur outside of school we can't really give some consequences for, but some types we can, okay? But all this stuff can potentially lead to some discipline. Consequences will range from a parent conference for the milder cases, again, to suspension for the more severe cases. It all depends on the severity of the bullying. And bullying can have legal consequences, especially putting things out on social media about people, and they're going to talk to you all about that here in a little bit. All right, and that's the end of mine. So now we're going to switch. And Jordan Cendrick's up from Amherst County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you for having me. I'm Jordan Cendrick. I'm with Amherst Sheriff's Office. I'm currently assigned to criminal investigations. I used to be a school resource officer, and then at the beginning of the year, I was recently promoted. So some of this stuff we're talking about, it's not really new. Because I'm a general investigator, we deal with a lot of cell phone, a lot of technology type crimes. I'm going to share some of those with you today from the legal aspect, so bear with me. First of all, as Dr. Wells discussed before, bullying is any aggressive or unwanted behavior that is intended to harm, intimidate, or humiliate the victim. It's repeated over and over again, and there is a perceived power imbalance with the aggressor. I just talked about this today in DARE with some 4th grade students, so I've been talking about bullying all day. Bear with me, I'm going to try to stay on track with you all. So we have a code section here. We deal with a lot. Every case is different. So anytime we investigate something, there are many different aspects that might go into it. No case is the same. But these are some of the most popular ones that we see, and some of the school resource officers deal with as well. This code section here is the use of profane, threatening, or indecent language over public airways or by other methods. So this is cell phones, computers, things of that nature, maybe a tablet, anything that you can communicate on. So there's some bold words here that I found important. So if it's of a threatening nature, threatening any illegal or immoral act with the intent to coerce, intimidate, or harass any person over any telephone or radio in the Commonwealth is guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. So it is punishable by a Class 1 misdemeanor, which could be jailable offense, if possible, normally a fine. There have been some cases where juveniles and adults might get charged with this. Believe it or not, we've had some cases where adults are actually involved in the bullying. They're bullying children or vice versa, going back and forth. I've seen that before. So like I said, any electronically transmitted communication producing a visual or electronic message that is received or transmitted by cellular telephone or other wireless telecommunications device. So if it's threatening in that nature, it's not good. It's illegal. If you threaten to harm someone, whether it be on social media, even if it's a social media platform, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, those are honestly the ones I'm familiar with. I don't get into the other ones as much, but that still counts. And in some cases, if it's severe enough, your devices can be seized by law enforcement. We can seize those in those circumstances. This one also, I've actually worked a few cases with this as well. Unlawful creation of image of another. So you see it's a bulky paragraph there. But it is unlawful for any person to knowingly and intentionally, those words are important, create a video or an image of a non-consenting individual. Either they say no, they might be unaware, okay? That person totally nude, undergarments, or in a state of undress as to bring about a sense of exposure. So genitals, pubic area, breasts, anything like that. Restroom, dressing room, locker rooms, school property. Kind of changes it up a little bit. So that is a Class 1 misdemeanor. Or if the non-consenting individual is under the age of 18, turns into a felony. And I have charged juveniles with a felony before. Our Commonwealth will do it, depending on the circumstances. Lots of times with this one, this sometimes comes off as a joke. Unfortunately, lots of times, students, juveniles, they think they're being funny by, maybe recording on Snapchat, recording a video, like I got you, something like that. It turns into something serious, not only when it's recorded, but especially when it's sent out to other people. And again, if we find out that has happened, we can seize the device, whether it be a tablet, a cell phone, a computer, social media, it doesn't matter. We can get those things and investigate further. So that was the recording part. I kind of got ahead of myself. This is sending it out. So any person with intent, again, to coerce, harass, or intimidate maliciously disseminates or sells any image, which basically goes into the other aspects. They're saying the same thing here. You can be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. I did confer, I asked about the felony. Again, 18 and under, it changes things a little bit. And with that being said, when it comes to minors, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. So one of the things we've run into recently with our Commonwealth and with some of these situations is any image that is created of a child, someone under 18, a juvenile, that can be considered child pornography. And when that happens, you have a couple of different things that come into play. So not only you take a picture or video, that's manufacturing. You send it, that's distribution. If you receive it, or if you have it on any device, anything, you're in possession. Those are 3 felonies, right there, 3 of them. So that's why, as a school resource officer, I did my best to talk to parents, let them know that, because again, we can seize devices, and unfortunately, when we seize some of these devices, we run into more that we find, other crimes. At my time as a school resource officer, I did have to seize some phones and hold on to them. Again, if there are images present on a cell phone, we, most of the time, pretty much all of the time, I don't think I've ever done this, we destroy them. So our Commonwealth Attorney and our courts will write an order, and those devices are destroyed. So if you're a parent or if your parents purchase your phones, keep that in mind. You're not going to get it back. It's going to be destroyed because there's evidence of a crime on there, and we can't say for sure that that image is not there. So that's why. Usually that happens in court cases as well. So that's always a frustration. Seizing phones is always a frustration for parents. We understand that. Personally, I understand. I don't like it, but it is required in some of these circumstances, especially with some of these felonies. It is serious. So whether you're a student, be mindful of your social media. Cell phones are great. We all love them because it's entertainment. You can communicate. You know, they're a good thing to have. They're fun. I have 2 of them. I wish I only had 1, but I have 2 because of my job now. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. But just be mindful because these codes, we do enforce them and we do take them very seriously to try to avoid more serious things down the road. So I think that's it for me, I believe.
All right. Thank you all for being here. Again, my name is Brandon Payne. I'm a police officer for the town of Amherst Police Department. I'm going to be talking today about internet safety and some things that we can do as parents and even the kids can learn about internet safety and going forward. I know there's a couple kids here and there were some parents here earlier, but as parents and the teachers here, do y'all know what your kids are doing online? I know during the day they're at school and you know, hopefully using the internet at school for research capabilities, but what about when you get home? What are they doing at home? So I was going to say, if there was more parents here, I was going to get a show of hands, but kids using social media sites, Facebook. We all have, a lot of people have Facebook pages. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok is a big one on here. I don't have the TikToks. I don't like TikTok. It is a very big site for promoting cyberbullying and bullying and situations like that, especially even, I know I don't have it up here, but Snapchat is a big one as well. And Yik Yak. I don't know, I've never heard of Yik Yak. I don't know if anybody has heard of it. It was originally started in 2013 and then relaunched in 2021. I had to look it up. It's actually a site or an app where you can create a topic or a thread anonymously, and anybody that has that app in a 5-mile radius can comment on that. Anybody. Doesn't matter who they are or if you have restrictions up, it's all anonymous, so you have no idea who's commenting on it. And parents, that's a big, big warning sign, especially for a lot of predators that are out there on these sites. This is a big one because it's all anonymous. Do the kids play games on parents' cell phones? Do the kids have their own cell phones? Using Google to help with their homework, because sometimes if you type in a Google search for something and you might not like the results getting back for your search request. Computer games or PlayStation or Xbox. I have an Xbox. When I was younger, Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out, and it was an online game, and those lobbies were disgusting. And people talking trash and garbage, and it is horrendous now. Like back in the day, those were bad lobbies and key areas for bullying and for cyberbullying especially. Playing games in virtual worlds. Who else is in that virtual world with them? Because you can go all these Minecraft games and all these other games that you can log into. World of Warcraft, that was a big one, I mean, for my age. I don't know if the kids play nowadays, but downloading music from iTunes, watching videos on YouTube especially. Because my kid's over here, she's probably watching YouTube Kids or something right now. So, and it was that's the big thing, parents, it's the babysitter now. It becomes the babysitter, the cell phones with the YouTube. And then, do you know what the kids are downloading from the App Store or Google Play? So some safety concerns, obviously it goes into inappropriate content. What's going on these sites? What are these kids seeing? Online privacy, all your information is out there. I know a lot of kids have Snapchat, and parents, if you have Snapchat, do you really know what the original form why Snapchat was created? It was created for, right there, sexting. So that's taking an inappropriate picture, a nude picture of yourself and sending it to somebody else, like Investigator Cindric was talking about earlier. That's why Snapchat was created, because Snapchat, and everybody thinks that Snapchat erases the picture after a couple seconds. Well, it doesn't. They have a server, it stores everything. I know because I've gotten search warrants from Snapchat, and I've seen everything that has been going on between that. So Snapchat does not actually delete stuff, all right? But that was the main purpose of creating Snapchat. These online sexual solicitations, child predators and even human trafficking, that's being big on online sites. And of course, cyberbullying, which Dr. Wells hit on in the beginning. There's risk for every age. The younger children, this netiquette right there is they're being, and younger kids, and it wasn't really necessarily in my generation and some of the teachers here, but the young kids, you guys have been constantly bombarded with cell phones and internet pretty much since the day you were born. So that's why probably your grandparents or your parents are like, I can't do this online, and you can just snap through it and show them how to do it real quick. Am I right? Right. So younger children, it's important to teach them how to actually respond and how to act online. That's what netiquette is. Teaching the kids about looking at inappropriate content. Pop-ups and passwords. Pop-ups are big. They were in the whole .com era coming around, and then big in recently. Now they've developed pop-up blockers and all kinds of things to help prevent that. But in the early 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s, pop-ups were terrible. There are hackers out there that can use a simple site that can spoof everything, and if you click on it, they've got all your information. That's how good they are online. So teaching kids how to avoid that and how to keep your passwords safe. And this last one, I don't know if this thing has a laser pointer on it. It might. Right there, not trusting everybody you meet online. That's one thing we need to keep instilling in our kids as they're growing up, because there are bullies out there. There are predators out there. The older kids, cyberbullying, sexting right there. All right, that is, and I know and I heard that there was a situation that went around and in our law enforcement communities, we've heard situations that have gone around schools in our area, in the region, that this happens. Like somebody will send a picture to one person and they're being funny and they'll send it to one person and they'll send it to 5 friends and they'll send it to 5 friends. Next thing you know, 250 people have seen this picture. All right, so that's why this is a big no-no for teens and tweens. Again, like Investigator Cendrick said, everybody under the age of 18 is a juvenile. Then you're looking into child porn and pornography at that case right there. Posting personal and inappropriate information. As the kids get older, as adults, we know that our personal information is private. We need to keep that safe. We need to teach our kids to keep that safe as well. Offline meetings somewhere in real life, because not necessarily you could be talking to somebody online as a friend, you think they're your friend, they think they're the same age, when they could be some 45-year-old male that's coming to take you away. Inappropriate content, I'm not going to go into that because that hits the nail on the head. That's all inappropriate content that should not be viewed by or even seen, involving juveniles. Parents, how to respond when we have an idea that this might be going on to our kids. Number one, don't frighten them, because one, you want them to open up to you and explain to what's going on and talk to you. If you frighten them right off the bat, you're never going to get that back, and they're going to clam up and they're not going to be able to talk to you. You want to listen attentively. Sometimes it's hard, and I've had to listen to some cases and listen to victims, and it's very hard to listen to what they're going through. Tell them it's not their fault, answer questions to help them, and help them report it. That number one right there, as you saw from the first slides earlier from Dr. Wells, a very high percentage of not being reported. Help your kids report situations that might be happening to them. Parents, I cannot stress this enough. Do not go onto social media yourself and post about certain situations, because you're an example for your kids, and all they see is your hate speech coming out and your violence and your threat and your offensive language, and they're going to mimic that behavior. So please, please, please refrain from that. Go back to get them help, and then put them in the right direction to get help. You can sit down with your kids and actually establish what you want and what you perceive in online behavior. Talk about appropriate usernames and appropriate passwords and appropriate comments and pictures. I know that a lot of kids think that it's okay to post anything online. Facebook is a public site that anybody can go to, and like Dr. Wells was saying, or I think Investigator Cedric was saying about spoofing somebody's account. That's so easy. Like, it goes around, people post on Facebook, don't accept any friend requests to me, I've been hacked. In reality, they've been spoofed. Their account's been spoofed by somebody trying to get information by somebody. If you have a strong password, it's generally likely you haven't been hacked. They're just taking a picture and copying and using that to create a fake account in your name. Right here, talk about what the kids' friends are posting, because not every parents are going to have the discipline the same way. Not every kids are going to be the same. See how their family's doing it. See what they're posting. Talk about things. Say, hey, that might not be appropriate for us, or that might not be appropriate for somebody your age. Because a lot of people, and especially going into high school, the age differences in friends are going to increase greatly. Talk about what's okay online. Pictures with friends and family. Games. What we talk about in a casual conversation in a game. What's not okay? Personal information. We live in a day and age that everything is online. And as like it or not, that you are trying the best, parents, to prevent all your information from being online. I'm sorry to say, it's already out there. You can try as hard as you want to prevent that, but it's already out there. All right? A lot of companies sell your information, but we can do our best to keep and limit that so it's not being readily accessible and being hacked and stuff being opened in your name and fraud happening. You talk about personal information, your passwords. There's a commercial online or TV. It's a young girl who said, my mommy's name is so-and-so. We live at this address. This is her password. This is our whatever. And it's a cyber safety commercial, but it's saying how easy it is for that kid just to give out all the information, especially if they are using your phones and just randomly talking to anybody. Again, this goes into why we want to keep our personal information safe. And the last one right there, well, basically all three of them. We're being a big increase in identity theft and online scams. That is ramping up as COVID's coming down and everybody's going back out there and all this. And that's being a big, big problem that we're dealing with. And hacking is always out there, as you can see what's going on in the world today. As parents, you can talk to your kids and tell them again what what they can and can't share. Help them create strong passwords. I use a password generator to create because everything needs a password nowadays. So it takes the guesswork out of me and the remembering out of me. I just create it and use my phone to help me remember my passwords. As I covered earlier, sending nude or partially nude images or sending or posting, 2.5% of teens say they have sexted, 7% say they have received a sext. I don't know when the data was collected on this, so I can't give you a year as to how long ago this was, but I can probably say that's increased recently in this year. Consequences. What we've been talking about pretty much all day or all evening is bullying, humiliation, big into the last one right here. We're going to get involved. And like Investigator Cindric said, somebody's going to get charged. And if they were a juvenile, that's carrying felonies. So that is jail time. That is a loss of a lot of privileges going forward. Talk to your children about the consequences of it. Bottom line right there, report it. If it happens, report it. The authorities need to know. Sexual solicitation, any unwanted sexual request or sexual request by, or any sexual request by an adult. We covered this earlier about the social networking sites and the online sites. It's big in online sites, especially the online chat rooms before. I know those have been kind of phased out because, again, growing up, AOL and AOL chat rooms were the big things back then, and that's usually where it all took place at. But there are online chat sites now that this occurs at. Offenders groom the children by exploiting curiosity, gifts. They're offering things. So if your kid comes home and they have something that you didn't give them or a family member didn't get them, talk to them. Find out where they got it from. Generally, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this could be what's going on. That could be the start of it, and it will gradually increase to explicit images. Again, check if they're receiving. They're receiving phone calls from unknown numbers. If you walk in the room as a parent and they shut their phone off real quick or something's going on, you're the parent. Check their phone. Find out what's going on. What you can do, as with everything, talk to your child about this. Talk to your child about meeting older people. Talk to your child about online friends. And again, if it needs to it and warrants to it, call the police. Right down here at the bottom, this is for a cyber tip line for anybody that sends child photos or videos, anyone that asks their kids for images, sexual images, or anyone that asks to meet your child in person. This tip line right here, cybertipline.org or 1-800-THE-LOST. They will get in contact with local authorities and push that further and make sure that it is being dealt with by the local authorities. All right, we talked about the bullying earlier, but the cyberbullying plus the addition of technology makes it the cyberbullying. Examples are sending the mean text, fake profiles, posting embarrassing pictures, sending threatening or harassing comments. Again, it's basically the same thing, the definition of bullying, and you're, like Dr. Wells has said, these are the examples of that. Spreads faster. Back when I was a kid, you basically word of mouth, that was the only thing we had back then, or a landline telephone. Now you send a text message and it's instantly there. Wider audience, like I said earlier, it jumps from people to people, and you can actually, from one person to the next thing you know, 200 people have seen that message. And it comes home with the kids because they got that phone in their hand when they're coming home. All right, this right here, it says suicide among cyberbullying victims is rare. Now this is from 2018, all right? What are y'all's thoughts on that? It's right. So I had to look it up, and in my opinion, right off the bat, I was like, I don't agree with that. But I think the way the slide was designed was for discussion. But in reality, I had to look it up. According to a 2018 study, cyberbullying victims are twice as likely to attempt suicide or self-harm. And that was in 2018. So it's probably gone up in even now, 2022. Doesn't always affect of the cyberbully, the victim, and it also affects the bystander, the person watching, or anybody witnessing that. A cyberbullying victim might stop using their cell phone because they don't want any more text messages to come through. They might start acting anxious or excited or nervous or whatever when they receive that message from that person. They seem withdrawn from friends and family. All right, these are clues that parents can pick up on. How to help? Save the evidence. Like I said about Snapchat earlier, regardless of what people think about, that message is still there. Those images are still there. You can block cyberbullying online. You can block them on your cell phones, set up new accounts, delete the old ones, talk to the schools. If there is a problem, the schools want to know. Talk to them and convince your children to talk to the schools and report it. Make sure it's reported. Again, same thing like the online solicitation. Again, the kids quickly switch screens. The cyberbullying might even use multiple online accounts because they're being bombarded and they're attacking people from multiple different sites and different places. It's that repeated behavior. How to prevent it? As the parent, it's your job to help prevent and teach your kids to learn online behavior. So establish expectations for online behavior, set consequences for cyberbullying. So if your child is doing it, they need to be disciplined about that, and model good online behavior. This last one right there, folks, is key because kids imitate what they see at home. So if you're doing the best you can online, they will imitate that. Not saying all the time, but they hopefully will. Talk to your kid about not being a bystander. If you see something, say something. Don't let that one friend of yours take all that abuse. Speak up, be the bigger person, help them report the cyberbullying. And stand with them and encourage them. Right there, encourage them to stand up. And stand with that victim. Parents, there are several options out there for cell phones and tech options. You can contact your cell phone provider. They can walk you through apps that you can download to monitor situations. One of my kids accidentally downloaded an app that was $9.99 recurringly, and I didn't know about it until a couple months later, and called the cell phone thing, the provider, and they helped me take that off and actually block the accounts of my kids from purchasing things online. So it can be done. There are things out there. check out every time an iOS or Android update happens, there are security features that happen. Read through them, familiarize yourself with them. Oops, I'm sorry. Technology can't catch everything, so please communicate with your kids. And that's all that I have. So thank you again for coming tonight and watching at home. Hopefully I've given you some tips on how to be better online and be better observing online for your kids.
Good evening. We're on the downward stretch. I'm the last part. And my name is Stephanie Mullenkamp. I am the supervisor of school counseling here in Amherst County Public Schools. So blessed to be here and have an amazing team of school counselors here. Shout out to them. Many of them are here tonight. And I just want to talk to you briefly about mental health, bullying and mental health. So before we talk about that correlation and those kinds of things, I wanted to kind of back up and talk big picture about mental health in general. Prior to COVID-19 hitting, we were already experiencing a mental health crisis. And so I think it's really important to put that in perspective. I just had some stats I wanted to share with you. The 2018-19 National Survey of Children's Health showed that 22% of children in Virginia have a mental, emotional, developmental, or behavioral problem. That's almost a quarter of our children. Only about half of those needing mental health supports actually will receive them. The 2019 Virginia Youth Survey indicated that in Virginia, approximately 15% of children have had at least one major depressive episode. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth aged 10 to 24. And according to a survey of Virginia primary care providers, 88% of them reported an increase in mental and behavioral health issues since the onset of COVID-19. So we recognize that coming into the pandemic, we were already experiencing some issues, and the pandemic has not helped that. That has exacerbated those issues. So I just thought it was important to think about those things, and I wanted to share with you a brief video. This is from information from the U.S. Surgeon General. So thank you, Marie. I think the important message is that it's really important for us to be able to have these conversations and talk about mental health and its impact, and normalize getting help when help is needed. So, and your school counselors are an excellent resource to reach out to if you have concerns, whether you're a student or a parent or a staff member. So specific to the correlation with bullying, mental health consequences of bullying, and these bullet points are really specific to those who are victimized. So those who are targeted by bully, they often experience lower self-esteem. They often experience increased stress and anxiety, depression. Many of them will self-harm, have thoughts of suicide. possibly attempt suicide. They experience loneliness. And I'm not sure that's an appropriate word. It's really more of like an isolation, feeling very much alone. And that's why Officer Payne was talking about the importance of, if you see something, say something. If you're a bystander, please stand up, because that extreme isolation and loneliness that a victim is feeling can be debilitating. So they often will avoid school. And obviously there could be psychosomatic impacts as well, stomach aches, headaches, chest tightness, you name it. And in addition, academic consequences. You can imagine if you're experiencing difficulties like being bullied and the mental health issues that come with that, it might be very difficult to be able to concentrate on academic endeavors. So, and according to one study published by the Journal of American Medical Association, young people exposed to cyberbullying, and we know that cyberbullying is relentless because there's always access, right? They are at a 50% increased risk of suicidal thoughts than their peers. I'm mimicking what you already said, sorry, but I think it's important to think about that. So this quote is specific to bystanders, so people who are seeing this happening. Bystanders to bullying may also experience mental health effects. Studies have shown that students who witnessed bullying at school experienced increased anxiety and depression as well, regardless of whether they supported the bully or the person being bullied. And if they said something, didn't say something, it didn't matter. So they often will experience stress related to fears of retaliation by the bully, or because they wanted to intervene but did not. So important to consider as well. So really, when we are thinking about mental health and bullying, the impact is on everyone because it's often very cyclical. Many times, students who are, or any person who has been victimized or who has been targeted by a bully will then end up bullying someone else. So it becomes this cycle at times. Also, many who are targeted are already experiencing mental health concerns, and this targeting just exacerbates those issues as well. And so it's just really important to think about that too. And the people who are bullying, the bully. This is important to think about too, and I think it's really important as a community for us to think about this in terms of not only is there reason to be concerned about those who are being bullied, but there are also reasons to worry about the children who are bullying others. They are more likely than other children to be involved in antisocial and troubling behaviors. They often will exhibit undesirable and aggressive behaviors. They also have increased risks of thoughts and attempts of suicide. They also have issues with disliking school avoidance, dropping out, and many times there's a correlation with substance use or misuse. So important things to consider no matter who we're talking about. So really this is our plea. We need your help. We need to come together as a team and work together to combat these issues and to do what's best for our children. So we appreciate everyone who's here tonight. We're so grateful and just hope that we can come together and do what we can to help this situation. And wanted to give a special shout out to some local businesses who provided some door prizes for us tonight. So this slide shows those businesses: Virginia Plaques and Trophies, First National Bank of Alta Vista, the Amherst office, Food Line of Amelon Square, El Mariachi in Amherst, and Sheets of Madison Heights. They all provided door prizes for us tonight, which if you have not filled out a card, please do so because we're about to draw. And that is the end of our presentation, and we wanted to give an opportunity for those of you who are here to ask questions if you have questions. But more importantly, we hope you hear that we are so appreciative that you have come out tonight, and we hope that it was of value. And again, we just hope that we can pull together as a team and work together. So thank you. Questions?
Do people who experience bullying or mean behavior on school buses, is there any different way to respond as a victim in those situations?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to defer to Dr. Wells.
Just for a school bus?
Yes.
So a school bus, I mean, it's still basically the same response. We want people to be aware of it. If it's repeated on a bus, contact your bus driver, let your parents know. We can pull students off buses. Buses are a privilege. We're not required to transport anybody on bus except for certain people with certain disabilities. But the average student does not have a right to ride a bus. It's a privilege to ride a bus. So if actions are taking place on a bus and they're not able to maintain themselves, they don't need to ride the bus. So we will look at that, but really it's the reporting aspect of it, making sure people report it so we can then deal with it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Other questions?